Hey everybody, we are so excited to share this 13th alumni interview with you today between Sarah Honeycutt and recent alum Kenzie Mckee. We know you're going to be blessed by it, but before we get into that interview, I did want to say thank you to all of our alumni that are supporting the ministry financially. One of our recent alumni actually gave one of the largest gifts here in the last week that we've had toward our campaign. Someone who just graduated this past May. You know who you are, and I just want to say thank you. Also, Sarah Honeycutt is organizing an alumni cookout, our first ever alumni cookout, here at the campus house on August 6th at 1 p.m. And we'll have information about that cookout here in the email. Click on the link and just RSVP. We'd love to see you there. That's all I got. Enjoy this interview between Kenzie and Sarah. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, so I am here for another CSF alumni interview, and I'm going to go ahead and Kenzie, let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, talk about what year you graduated and how long you were participating in CSF.
Yeah. So I just graduated in December of 2021. So I've only been out for a few months, which, it's been going really well up to this point. I was trying to think back today. My school experience was a little bit different just because I took a few extra months. So I think it might have been 3 years I was with CSF, but either way, years were involved. So I hung out for a long time. I loved it. I love the people. So I'm just fresh out of school and trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. So did you start with CSF like right away when you got into college, or did you find it later on?
No. So I actually, I kind of started college like most kids do, just flying by the seat of our pants, trying to make it every day. And I knew I needed to find a place, and I wanted to find a place to get involved with. But the whole process, it's just overwhelming. College is overwhelming when you first get there. So I had actually gone to another group previously, once or twice, that I'd met in the campus center. And I hate this, but I don't remember which one it was now, but then I had stumbled across CSF in the campus center. And so I was like, well, I'll give it a try. And I fell in love immediately. So after that, I just never stopped. I decided that this was the place for me, and that's where I stayed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my story was kind of similar. I started at the end of my freshman year, I guess, beginning of sophomore year. So it wasn't like right away, but once I did find it, it just kind of felt like home for me. So
clicked.
Yeah, absolutely. So you graduated in December. So talk about like what you've been up to since graduating.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a whirlwind. This is not where I initially expected to land, but I wouldn't ask for anything else at this point. So I ended December, like mid-December, and less than a week of my official graduation date, the school that I was student teaching at, the principal called me in and he was like, I know that you literally just finished, but we'd love to have you here. So do you want to stay? And I did not expect to find a spot that quickly. And I guess that's just another example of God's grace. But I loved that school and I wanted to be there. So I was really hoping that was a scenario that would happen. And so I am now teaching at Lawrence Central High School. I teach freshman geography and I absolutely love it. I moved a little ways out of Indianapolis to Fortville. It's a great middle ground just to be with family when I need to be, and be at school when I need to be. So be at work and in the area. But it's all been, this is not where I expected to land at all. I kind of graduated and was like, well, now what? But God put those stones in place for me and really set me up and guided me through it all. So although this is not where I expected things to go, I'm fully happy with it, and I'm content, and I'm kind of just waiting on the next steps of life. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And the like what you said of like God showing his grace and like giving you that opportunity right off the bat. And then you listening to that too and like acknowledging it. And that's just a really cool note there. So even though you wouldn't change anything, has it been kind of a struggle to accept that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it, since it is different than what you were planning, has that been hard for you, or is it something you've kind of been able to grasp?
yeah, I think a little bit of a struggle and a little bit of fun. Because I think as humans, we very much, we tend to try to handle things on our own. And we try to take the reins when we know that we are reminded several times throughout the Bible, like, this is not your life, like you trust me, you follow me. And I think when we're unsure of where we're going, we start to panic, and we start to try to take control of things that we need to be giving to God. And so that there were moments where that was really hard for me, especially coming down to like the wire on school. I was getting to a place where I was like, oh my gosh, I have 2 weeks left. I don't have a job. Where am I going? What am I doing? And so I learned a lot about myself as a person. I really became grounded in my identity, just becoming an adult and functioning on my own and just like taking on life, on my own. So it was hard. There were days it was hard, and I was like, I don't know where I'm going, and I'm not feeling great about it. So there were some hard conversations there with the Lord that I think we all tend to have, where I was like, I need help. But it was also a really fun experience as well. Just kind of starting to see how, his plan always plays out for good, and how those things played out in my life. There's kind of some humor to it. He gave me some space to panic, just to kind of show me like, this is my world, this is my control, and I have a plan for you. You just need to chill out and wait. So it was fun to just kind of live it out and watch it all unfold at the same time. But it was very stressful at times as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a balance there of stress and like questioning God a little bit, and then also having that peace we have as Christians of like, it's going to be okay, like God's got control. And there's definitely like, it's okay to hold both of those things. I've come to find out, and it sounds like you have as well. So
yes.
Yeah. So you said you love your job. Have you found in the workplace it like easy to talk about God, or has there been moments where you've seen God like play out in the workplace at all?
Yes and no. It's hard, especially in education and teaching. Just in general, you have that rule of separation of the church and state when it comes to education. And so as a teacher, that can be kind of difficult at times, just trying to balance that idea of like, you can't tell kids what to believe. And so, and I think in the world, that's just hard as well. Sometimes sharing our faith is difficult. Sometimes we have to find unique ways to show God's love to people. And that's mostly what I've been seeing and what I've been learning is that especially for students and for young kids, a lot of times the way that I see Jesus being shown in schools is typically through like those fruits of the Spirit that we have, by loving our kids, loving our students, giving them the supports that they need, showing them what the love of Jesus looks like, without directly, coming out and ministering. Unfortunately, just where we're at, we can't do that. But we can show them what loving like Jesus looks like. And so that's the biggest thing that I've seen in my workplace. And I've also been able to find like-minded friends that also I was really surprised to just find all of the adults that felt the same way that I do. I work with several Christians, and that's been very comforting, also surprising, but just it's amazing how, God kind of places you in those right places with those right people. So I have seen that work. It's just been in a different way than what as Christians we're typically used to seeing and ministering. So for me, it's mostly been just the patience and the kindness, the forgiveness, all the things that, putting into a child's life, putting into these 15 and 16-year-old kids' lives. So it's there, and it's shown just just a little differently. So
yeah, that's great. I think it's so important as a teacher to have those qualities and have those spirits, or the fruit of the spirit that we can share with those students, especially high school. I feel like high school is such a hard age, and yeah, I'm sure that they definitely appreciate you and appreciate your coworkers who are showing them that love. So
yeah, it is a extremely hard age, which we've all been there. We've all gone through it. So we know just like what it feels like to be in high school. So, I mean, they need it, and I can, we show up at, we also have things like the Youth for Christ, and like the meetings you can have in the mornings and stuff like that. What is the one for athletes that they FCA?
yeah.
So there's ways that you can be present and, show your kids like where you stand and like how you can support them, just by showing up to like after school events and clubs and things that they have like that as well. But it's definitely important to show a lot of those qualities that we're taught as Christians for kids, because they need it. They need all the love and all the hugs. So
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say from CSF is like the most valuable lesson that you took from that time in the group?
So I actually sat on this one for a while, because I have learned so much from CSF. I learned so much just about Jesus and about relationship and people and all the things, but I would say the most valuable lesson that I learned is trusting his plan, and trusting his consistency in your life, and to stand firm in that, because I think around me throughout my 4 years of college, classes changed, my mind changed about where I was going in life, what I wanted to do with my life. People come and go, but one of the most constant things in my college career was CSF and the people in CSF. And I think at times as we grow older, it can be a scary thing to be like, oh, well, we went to church when we were kids with our families, but like, how do we find like-minded adults, and how do we find like-minded friends when we're in college? And so just that consistency of love and like-minded friends, and the continuous reminder that like a million things might be going on around me, outside and in the world, but God remains the same. CSF remained the same, and those lessons that we would learn at CSF, we could carry those out with us. And it was just a constant reminder of like, yeah, things are crazy right now, and you might be doing this, and that, but like God never changes, and his love never changes, and you have to stand firm in that. And it also just showed me too that like you will never travel alone in that. Even as an alumni now, I still keep in contact with several of the people that I made relationship with. And Andrew is always supportive, and just, you never lose those people, you never lose those relationships. And so that's probably one of the biggest things, is just like trusting in him and standing firm in what he created for us. And he tells us a million times over and over in the Bible to trust in him and to trust in his process. And so that really was a stand firm thing for me, for the 3 years, just a comfort of trusting in him always. And so I have taken that with me outside of college, outside of CSF. Now that I have graduated, I just keep trying to remind myself, even now, I have a job and I'm pretty comfortable with my life, but there's still areas where I have to look back and say, okay, trust in the plan, trust in what he's doing. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something that I overlook sometimes, like when I think back on like all the things that CSF did for me was like I guess I haven't really thought about the consistency factor of it, but that is such a big thing. Like, and it was so big for me as well, of like having a group to go to every week, having people to talk to whenever I need to. And I think it's something we can take for granted pretty easily, especially as adults. Like, it can be really easy to like just only on Sunday mornings like have interactions with Christian people, or like, you know, like having like putting it into like a little circle of your life versus like making it your whole life. And I think that is definitely a valuable lesson of like being able to have these friendships and build this community anytime, any day of the week, and like having knowing that God is like in the middle of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially just because it's already scary enough to show up at college. A lot of people, well, we know IUPUI is a commuter school mostly. So for me, even just the fact of traveling an hour and 15 minutes or so and showing up every day in a town that I wasn't quite familiar with, at a school that I have no idea what I'm doing, was scary enough. And to have that in the back of your mind, that like you also want to try to find a family, a community that, you know, believes the same way that you do, that is also extremely nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, there's already so many other factors involved. And so to be able to step out every day and have that comfort and say like, yeah, it took a lot of bravery to find you, but I finally found you. And like, to just be able to have the comfort in that, and the comfort in like, it was a very scary process, but even still he remained the same. Like his goodness remained the same. He brought me to this group that I needed. And I have to remind myself of it too. So I think we all do. We have to remind ourselves that like these things that are happening for us in our lives and the consistencies that we're falling upon, like groups like CSF, he places us there, like that was all in his design. And so sometimes you have to sit back and look at all these stones that he put in place for us that sometimes we don't initially see when we're looking at our lives. And so that was a big thing for me, that I look back now and I'm like, so much concrete of my life I gained from CSF and just the relationships I built there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so what about like today? Do you attend a church right now, like on Sundays?
Yeah, so I've actually been kind of roaming a little bit. When I first moved to town, I didn't even know Fortville was on the map, kind of. I mean, I knew of it, but I've never been through it, and I didn't know anything about it. So when I first got here, it was something where I was just trying to adjust to living in a new town. But I have been going to several different places, just trying to feel out the community and what fits best for me. Here recently, I have been going consistently to the same church, but it actually is in Muncie, Indiana. So my family goes to church in Muncie. And so on those days that I am not sure where I'm going to look next or try to find a home next, I just go back and spend time with my family's home church and just find a way to sit with God, whether it be somewhere that I'm already familiar with or a new place to try out. So it's been really beneficial. It's been super neat. I think occasionally we can get stuck in this idea of like, you know, once you find your church home, like you don't go to another, like it's this idea that we all think of, which it's like, that's not a real thing. And we have to like, where did that even come from? But it's been a really neat experience just to kind of see like the different churches and the different communities, and just how how his faithfulness remains the same, and that we truly are one body of believers. And so it's been really neat to kind of see the different churches and just see how we're all, living the same style. We're all living in the same boat, and sometimes we're just in different buildings. So that has been really cool. But yeah, I've just been trying to find a home here. I've been trying to find a church that kind of fits where I'm looking for.
Yeah, that can be a struggle sometimes. It can take a while. And I think the fact that you're being diligent about your search too, and you're not just like saying, I just won't go anywhere at this point, like you're still like searching, and like you still have that kind of hometown, like your family's church that you can go to. There's definitely nothing wrong with that at all. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So in kind of wrapping up a little bit, so what advice would you give to, we'll start with alumni. So you are a recent alumni yourself. So if any advice for like upcoming alumni, people who are just about to graduate maybe, or, yes, especially those like seniors who are like a few weeks away from graduating, any advice for them?
Yeah. Actually, it's strange. I just, my advice for them, I just kind of went over myself like 2 days ago. I saw a really interesting video about Martha and Mary, and the story in the Bible about how Mary sat in Jesus's presence. He sat at his feet. And she was talking about this idea of being a Mary in a Martha world. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, that would be great advice. I have to remind myself of that a lot of times. So I think my advice would be like, don't forget to be Mary. Don't forget to sit in Jesus's presence. Like, you're about to move out into the world and try to establish yourself as an adult, try to establish who you're going to be, figure out your identity, what you want to do with yourself. And that's scary and that's hard. But just don't forget to sit in his presence, because if you do, like, he's not going to lead you astray. And he's never going to leave you behind. And so again, like we've talked about several times tonight, like, trust in his plan, sit with him. Don't forget to have those moments, because it is so much harder when you try to take your own reins. And even like, though we are done and established, like I've said, like I would say I'm pretty established, and I think a lot of the alumni would say they're pretty established at this point. We still need it too. Just because you're feeling like you're in a great place, like, we can't forget to be Mary as well. And so I think for, the people who are coming out of graduating, or those of us that are just living life at this point, it's a valuable lesson to remember, and I remember for myself, just to sit at Jesus's feet and be in his presence. Don't get caught up in worrying about all the things that you have to get done and figure out. They'll fall into place. That will come. Just focus on him. So, I mean, that seems like a pretty typical advice. But I think it's something as Christians that we quickly get caught up in the mess, and have to sit with that, like, step back, take a deep breath, and just sit with him. So
yeah, no, that's great advice. I think I need to do that more often. So I think, yeah, like you said, I mean, anybody, it just it's so easy to get so busy and like so like worried about all the things. So
yes, so distracted. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has been great. And I've loved catching up with you.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do it again. We'll have to get some coffee in Fortville or something. So
yeah, find some places in Fortville. Everybody's welcome. We can explore Fortville together.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much, Kenzie.
Of course.